All right, your second call for Class 1 Fine Wolves. We're needing Ella Nichols and Kinley Boggs. Need to get your lambs to the ring at this time. Second call for Class 1, our one and only class of Fine Wolves. All right, as we've got this first class in the ring this morning, would like to take a moment to recognize and introduce our judge today for our lamb show, Mr. Jason Bird, out of Fort Sumner, originally from Fort Sumner, New Mexico, currently lives in San Antonio, Texas, works for Labatt Food Service lives with his wife Sarah and daughter Bree in Lavernia. Went to Clarendon Junior College, Texas Tech University, judging livestock and meat. Judges at a lot of jackpots and county shows here in Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. If you would, let's put our hands together this morning to welcome Mr. Jason Bird to West Texas. Thank you so much for being here today, Jason. Yeah, that's where he lives. He works at Labatt Food, San Antonio. Also, real quick, want to recognize Terry County Tractor this morning, taking care of sponsoring our live feed with KCBD. Appreciate them being out here today, making this available online. For those that don't have access or can't make it to the show today, if you'd like to let them know, I believe the live link is shared on the Lubbock County Junior Livestock Show's Facebook page. They can go watch the show from there today if they like. Also, a reminder about our concession stand, Lubbock County 4-H Club. That's their fundraiser for the year. If at any time you'd like something to drink or snack on, they've got lots of goodies over there for you. We ask that you go over there and support them and help them with their fundraiser this year. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Looking forward to a great one. we have our chip bucket going around again today, don't we? Still, we have any going around with it? Devin's photography real quick. All right, another quick announcement. I want to make sure everybody knows all of our breed and reserve breed champion exhibitors must have your picture taken in front of the banner today before you can leave the building. You can do that after your show, after you've won, or you can do it at the end of the day when we announce our overall grand champion. But you must have your picture taken in front of the backdrop today before you leave. Happy to have Devin Sis Photography in the house today, taking care of all of our pictures in the ring and our breed and reserve breed champions. All right, it's going to be your first call for Class 2 Fine Wool Cross, our one and only class of Fine Wool Crosses. First call for Class 2 Fine Wool Cross. No, he's going to come get it from me every time. I already talked to him about it. It's on and ready for you.
Well, good morning. It's certainly a pleasure to be with you all this morning up here in Lubbock, and I'm pleasantly surprised and happy that it's not as cold as I was expecting, so that's always good. We've got a really nice class to lead off our show in our fine wool division, and I'm going to land on the young lady's sheep. To me, he wins this thing pretty easily. To me, he's the most modern in his look. He's definitely the best in his rib cage, and that rib cage kind of sets the foundation for everything else to just be right in this sheep. His neck comes out the top of his shoulder very high. I think he's good enough in his chest floor. Carries himself very, very, very well around the ring on the move. Just a really good, logical place to start. The sheep that comes in second, to me, this is probably the best handling sheep in the class. I love his tone and his touch. To me, he's just a little bit more fine wool in his look. And what I mean by that is he's a little flatter in his side, a little deeper in his chest, just a little plainer to look at. But I think he's a good one to sort there in the second hole just because of his handling quality and the terminal merit that he offers. The young lady's sheep in third, this is one that I like the balance and the profile. He's better in his front 1/3 than the one that stands in front of him. To me, I just wish he was pulled apart wider in his skeleton. I read him as being a little bit narrow when he comes away from me. When I get in behind him, he definitely tapers to his dock. But I like the look from the side. I just wish we could put more power, skeletal width in that one. If we could, then I think he would slide up in the second hole. The sheep that comes in fourth, this is probably the widest constructed, most massive sheep that we have in the class. To me, he's just overdone from a finish standpoint, and I wish he balanced up a little better from the side and had more shape to his lower leg. The two sheep that come in next, they're very similar type, just a little bit narrow made and flatter muscled. And the one that's going to round out the class, just the pounds lightest sheep in class that just gives up too much in terms of terminal merit. But a really nice class to get us going. Thank you very much.
Good job, guys.
All right, your places for Class 1. First place and breed champion goes to Haley Felipe. Second place goes to Stetson Felipe. Reserve breed champion. Third, Ella Nichols, Lubbock Cooper FFA. Fourth, Kenley Boggs, Lubbock Cooper FFA. Fifth, Katie Collins, Idalou FFA. Sixth, Ellie Hare, Idalou FFA. And seventh, Alexa Gatos, Idalou FFA. All right, second call for Class 2 Fine Wool Cross. Second call for Class 2 Fine Wool Cross, our one and only class of Fine Wool Crosses. All right, it's going to be your first call for Class 3 Southdown. First call for Class 3 Southdown. All right, real quick, we'd like to let everybody know we got two young ladies walking around with a white bucket over here. It's a little fundraiser we got going on for Lubbock County Junior Livestock Show. They've got poker chips inside that bucket. You can grab a chip out of that bucket, and whatever number's on there is how much you pay. So if you draw the 50, you pay $50. At the same time, you get an entry into a drawing that'll happen at the sale next Saturday, and that one person will win $1,000. So whether you get one ticket, one chip, 5 chips, however many, whatever they all add up to, that's how much you owe, how much you pay, and then it puts you into the entry for $1,000 at the sale next Saturday. And this is a fundraiser for the Lubbock County Junior Livestock Show. So if you'd like to, just holler at them. They won't really say anything, but if you look at them, tell them to come here, they'll get you fixed up. They'll sell you a chip.
You're live and ready to go.
A very interesting class as we get into our crossbred division. And to me, you know, as a breed, you definitely see the most variation, I think, out of all the different breeds in this one. And you could maybe mix these around a little differently if depending on how you want to prioritize. I like all three of these sheep, and I think they all three have a reason to win. But I'll kind of let you know what I saw in them, and you can go from there. The one I land on to win is the young lady Speckle-Faced Weather. To me, this is the highest quality sheep in the class. He's built the best. He's the most correct in his lines. He runs uphill on his top line, and I think he's the shallowest in his chest and probably the neatest up through his front end. He's definitely the longest bodied, and when you get your hands on him, I think he handles good enough. But I think just in terms of skeletal quality and balance and build, that's where I wanted to land, and that's why he wins the class. I think it's very, very close between second and third. The one that won, to me, he was kind of a first or third type of deal because you can't really split this pair. To me, the difference between the two, the one in second, to me, I think is a little bit more shapely, especially when you get in behind him. You see more thickness and expression of muscle through the center and lower parts of his leg, and I also lines are a little bit better. I think the sheep proportions a little bit when you study his weight distribution from the side. I think he's better in his chest floor, and I think he's better in his front end. The sheep that's in third, this is a really good handling sheep, especially over his top. He's definitely the firmest and probably the freshest in the class. To me, he just wants to get a little bit easy in his top line sometimes. To me, he's a little bit flatter ribbed, and consequently, his front end isn't quite as attractive. But another really thick, powerful, muscular sheep that handles really well. The sheep in fourth is a long-bodied sheep. He's probably the trimmest in the class, but also he's the narrowest made and probably the flattest sided. We just need to give him. We just need to give him more mass to move him up in the class. And we're going to round out the class with a very powerful sheep that's just too overdone for me. He has too much condition. If we could lean him up, then I think he definitely moves up in this class. But a nice set of crosses. Thank you.
All right, your places for Class 2. First place, Abigail Fallas, Lubbock County 4-H. Second place, and your breed champion fine wool. Second place, and your reserve champion fine wool, Evelyn McCormick, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Third, Haley Felipe, Lubbock County 4-H. Fourth, Stetson Felipe, Lubbock County 4-H. And fifth, Creed Cox, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. All right, second call for Class 3 Southdown. Second call for Class 3 Southdown. All right, it's going to be your first call for Class 4 South Down. First call for Class 4 South Down.
We've stepped up the quality quite a bit as we transition into our South Down breed. I think there's 4 sheep in this class that I like a lot, and I think there's a lot of really good things about them. The sheep that wins, to me, this is one that you just love in terms of terminal merit. You put your hands on this one, handles crazy good, super big-backed, expressive down his top, blows you away when you get in behind him. And then when you get on the side, I like the way this sheep is built. He's extremely up-fronted. I love the way his neck ties right into the top of his shoulder. He's good through his chest floor, correct in his lines, just a really good one to start on. If I was going to change this one, I'd like to just loosen him up in his flank a little bit. That might help his lines and make him a little bit more attractive, but a really, really solid sheep to win this class. I really like the one in second, too. This is one that, from the profile, you study him, you proportion, everything looks right. To me, what gets him beat is just the top side of his skeleton. Doesn't handle as firm, doesn't handle as crisp, not quite as muscular of a sheep as the one that precedes him, but one that's very, very good made, very, very high quality. To me, the closest decision in this class was between third and fourth. I like both these sheep a lot. To me, the one that lands in third is just maybe a little bit more attractive from the profile. I like how he runs uphill. I like how he's tall at the top of his shoulders and extended up through his neck. I think he's a little bit better in his chest floor, and he's definitely leveler out of his hip. He's one that handles good, and when you get in behind him, he's big in his hip, and he drops down a lot of muscle. Sheep that's in fourth, this might be the freshest handling sheep in the class besides the winner. I love how he handles down his top. Very, very trim, very high cutability sheep, which I appreciate. To me, he just doesn't balance up as good as the one that's in third. I wish he was a little leveler out to his dock, and maybe we could drop more muscle into his lower leg. And the sheep that comes in fifth, this is one that's got some thickness, got some power, just not quite as attractive, maybe doesn't blend the pieces as good and as smooth as these others, but a really, really good class. Thank you.
All right, your places for Class 3. First place, Molly Harris, Idalou, FFA. Second place, Ellis Irwin, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Third, Addison Irwin, Lubbock Cooper, Liberty. Fourth, Paisley Morris, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Fifth, Riker Berry, Idalou, FFA. Sixth, Alexa Gatus, Idalou, FFA. And seventh, Aubrey Sheets, Roosevelt, FFA. All right, your second call for Class 4, our second final class of South Downs. Second call, Class 4 South Down. All right. I also want to remind everybody, if you'd like to sell your lamb to the floor, we have a form up here at our table, the announcer's table, that you'll need to fill out. Need your animal's ear tag number, the weight, address, all that good stuff, and then we'll let you know where you'll place it. The price for the floor this year is $1.75 a pound. Again, that's $175 a pound. So if you'd like to sell your animal to the floor, you'll need to come up here and see us, and then we'll tell you where to put your lamb as we get all your information down. Thank you. All right, we need to get that first and second place Southdowns from Class 3 to the ring for our breed champion drive here shortly. First and second place Southdowns from Class 3. Start making your way back to the ring at this time.
Another really good class of Southdowns, and I think another very logical place to start. The one that I land on is just a real solid sheep. You know, to me, just combines a lot of good things and does them very, very well. He's an attractive, high-quality sheep that handles good and has plenty of muscle. If I was going to change him, I might like to change his hip a little bit, make him a little bit leveler out to his dock, but a nice sheep that wins this one. I like the sheep that comes in second. This is another nice, balanced, high-quality sheep that's got some muscle. To me, I just wish he handled with a little bit more tone and description down his top. Maybe we could elevate him up in his front end and clean up his chest floor, but a very logical place to land in second. The one in third's the other one that's a wide constructed, thick made kind of a sheep. To me, I'd like to level him out of his hip a little bit, maybe elevate his front end, make him a little bit more attractive. But in terms of body width and rib shape, this is the one that needs to be in third. The one in fourth is a long-bodied extended sheep. To me, he's just a little flatter in his rib cage, a little finer in his bone, and maybe narrower up through the front of his chest. The sheep that comes in fifth, this is a long-bodied extended sheep that just doesn't quite have enough muscle. And the sheep that's going to round out the heaviest condition and maybe the plainest when we look at them from the side. But a nice set of sheep. Thank you.
All right, your placings for Class 4 Southdown. First place, Molly Harris, Idalou, FFA. Second place, Abigail Follis, Lubbock County, 4-H. Third, Abigail Follis, Lubbock County, 4-H. Fourth, Keegan Flowers, Friendship, FFA. Fifth, Micah Thompson, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. And sixth, Laney Sheets, Roosevelt, FFA. All right, we're going to bring in those first and second place Southdowns from classes 3 and 4 for our breed champion drive. Your first place from class 3, Molly Harris, Idalou, FFA. Second place from class 3, Ellis Irwin, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. First place from class 4, Molly Harris, Idalou, FFA. And second place from class 4, Abigail Follis, Lubbock County, 4-H. All right, again, we're going to recognize our first place from Class 3, Molly Harris, Idalou, FFA. And second place from Class 3, Ellis Irwin, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. First place from Class 4, Molly Harris, Idalou, FFA. And second place from Class 4, Abigail Follis, Lubbock County, 4-H. All right, first call for our Class 5 Dorper. First call for Class 5, our one and only class of Dorper.
Let's congratulate all of our winners out here in our Southdown division. Really, really good set of sheep. I thought, by far the deepest breed we've seen, especially that lightweight class. And I like all four of these out here a great deal. I think they put together a lot of really good things. They're high-quality sheep, that balance up and they look right from the side. They've got plenty of skeletal width and muscle, and then when you get in and handle them, they handle like they're supposed to. They're firm and crisp to the touch, and they're not carrying a lot of extra finish on them. To me, like I said, I like them both. I'm going to stay in the lightweight class. Your first and your second place lightweight will be your champion and your reserve. Thank you.
All right, your champion Southdown goes to Molly Harris from Idalou, FFA. And the reserve Southdown goes to Ellis Irwin, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. All right, it's your second call for Class 5 Dorper. Second call for Class 5 Dorper. All right, we're going to take a moment to recognize Texas Ford Dealers, one of our sponsors this year. They got a couple new vehicles over here that got on display. If you'd like to step over, take a look at them, please do so. We'd like to recognize them. If you do it, let's put our hands together. They did a big donation for us this year, helping to make today possible. So thank you very much, Texas Ford Dealers. class of medium wool, if they haven't told you. 5 class of medium wool. Okay. Both have. So you don't have to worry about your number. All right, it's going to be your first call for Class 6 medium wool. First call for Class 6 medium wool.
A nice set of hair sheep out there, and we'll talk about the 3 that are left. To me, the one that wins is kind of the logical place to start. We talk about sheep that are built right, that run uphill, that are correct in their lines, that can get out and move, and maintain their skeletal quality, and I think he does all of this. When you get into these hair sheep, for the most part, they all have plenty of width. They all have plenty of muscle. If you can get one that's built right, that's compositionally correct, I think, that's where you need to hang your and try to live in. But this is just a really good place to start with that one. The one that comes in second is probably the thickest, most muscular sheep in the class. To me, I just wish he balanced up a little bit better from the side. I wish his rib cage was different to me. I wish he was a little bit more elevated up through the floor of his chest, more extended out through his front end, but a really thick sheep that you like from that aspect. And the one that's going to round out the class is a nice sheep that's straight and level in his lines. To me, he's a little plainer from the side. He's probably the heaviest conditioned, and then maybe wants to get a little bit short from flank to flank. But a nice set. Thank you.
All right, your placings for Class 5. First place and breed champion goes to Alexa Gatus, Idalou, FFA. Second and reserve champion, Cadence Maldonado, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. And third, Riker Berry, Idalou, FFA. All right, second call for Class 6 medium wool. Second call for Class 6 medium wool. All right, it's going to be your first call for Class 7 medium wool. First call for Class 7 medium wool.
A really nice set of sheep as we transition into our medium wool division. And to me, the one I'm going to land on to lead the class off with, to me, is one that kind of catches your eye as soon as he comes in the ring. He definitely has a presence about him. I love how loose he is in his structure. This sheep can really get out and move. He bends his knee, he flexes, he really reaches out, and he holds his top line together on the move. When the young lady sets him up, I think he balances up impeccably. And then you get your hands on him. I think he handles with enough muscle, especially when you get in behind him. If I was going to change anything about this sheep, I wish he had a bigger square rack. You know, if we could make that rack come out a little bit bigger right behind his shoulders, I think that would help him. And I'd also think he's getting maybe a tick fat, you know, especially right up front. You know, I don't think it's a huge problem yet, but definitely something to watch for. But a really, really high-quality, cool, white-featured one that you have to appreciate. To me, the closest decision was between second and third because I think the sheep are very, very similar. I elected to use the young lady's blue sheep in second because I think he's better in the front one-third of his skeleton. What I mean by that is I think he's tucked up tighter in his chest floor. I think he's better up through his front end. He's definitely leaner, and you can see that if you study him in their elbow pocket right behind their front leg. You can see more shape there than the sheep that's in third. The sheep that's in third is thicker, you know, especially when you get in behind him. He's bigger in his upper hip and definitely has more shape down low. Again, like I said, a very, very close pair. You know, I just thought the front third of their skeleton was a little bit better in the sheep that ends up in second, but three really, really good sheep. The one that's in fourth is one that I like a great deal. To me, where I really fault this sheep is in his front end. You know, when she gets him out in motion, he really wants to get downhill. He wants to drop his chest floor, and I think his neck's too short. I'd like to, you know, extend that out and make him more attractive up through his front end. Because after that, he's got all the bells and whistles you look for. You know, he's got that great shag on his legs, big top, big ended. Like I said, we could just change the front end of him. Then I think he's one that you would absolutely love. The sheep that comes next is a high-quality sheep. He just runs out of gas in terms of muscle to compete with the ones above him. If we could make him a little bit wider in his skeleton, that would help as well. But a really nice class. Let's give all these exhibitors a round of applause.
All right, your places for Class 6. First place, Molly Harris, Idalou, FFA. Second, Evelyn McCormick, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Third, Ellis Irwin, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Cameron Salazar, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Fifth, Paisley Morris, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Sixth, Haley Felipe, Lubbock County 4-H. Seventh, Ellie Hare, Idalou, FFA. 8th, Abigail Fallis, Lubbock County 4-H. 9th, Riker Berry, Idalou, FFA. 10th, Kylie Abreu, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. And 11th, Alexa Gatus, Idalou, FFA. All right, your second call for Class 7 medium wool. Second call, Class 7 medium wool. Also, I've been informed that the concession stand now has pizza and sausage wraps over there if you'd like to grab you something for a lunchtime. Getting close to lunch here, so if you'd like to grab you something for lunch, they do have pizza and sausage wraps. So please help yourself, get over there and support the Lubbock County 4-H. It's going to be your first call for Class 8. All right, your first call for Class 8 medium wool. First call for Class 8 medium wool.
A really good class as we get into Class 2 medium wools. And to me, one of the easiest things to do is to land on the young lady's blue sheep. To me, this guy is just real solid. You know, there's not a lot of holes in him. He's thick. He's pretty. He moves good enough. If I was going to change anything about him, I might like to lean him up, you know, up through the front third of his skeleton and maybe lengthen him out a little bit. A real solid sheep to lead off the class. The ones that comes in second when the young man gets him propped up, I absolutely love this guy. You know, I think this is the picture that we're looking for in terms of balance. You know, he's correct in his lines. He runs uphill. He's got lots of shape to down low to his lower leg. The problem I have with him, he's just too fat. And to me, he doesn't handle right on the top side of his skeleton. I wish he was bigger and bolder right behind his shoulders. And I think if we could clean him up and give him more shape, then we might be able to consider him to win. But like I said, a really attractive sheep that I just wish handled a little bit better. The one that comes in third is kind of the opposite of the one in second. This is kind of a meat and potatoes type sheep that's built good enough. He's extremely thick, and he's extremely lean. You know, we talk about high cutability sheep. This is him. And I think it almost works to his disadvantage in this class because a little extra might smooth him up, maybe make him a little bit more attractive. But in terms of terminal merit, you know, this is a sheep you really have to appreciate. The one that comes in fourth is another one that props up pretty good. The problem I have with this guy, I wish he handled better and bigger in down his top. And when you get in behind him, he kind of tapers back to his dock and in his lower leg. The sheep that comes in fifth, this is a nice made sheep that's shallow in his chest and extended up through his front end. I wish he was a little bit leveler out of his hip, and consequently, I wish he moved a little bit better on his hind too. But a really nice class. Thank you.
All right, your places for Class 7. First place, Addison Irwin, Lubbock Cooper Liberty. Second place, Kelson Roberson, Idalou FFA. Third, Keegan Flowers, Friendship FFA. Fourth, Abigail Fallis, Lubbock County 4-H. Fifth, Autumn Ahern, Lubbock Cooper FFA. Sixth, Ellen Nichols, Lubbock Cooper FFA. Seventh, Tatum Harrington, Idalou FFA. Eighth, Katie Collins, Idalou FFA. Ninth, Rhiannon Castillo, Lubbock Cooper FFA. 10th, Addison Ramsey, Lubbock Cooper FFA. And 11th, Aubrey Sheets, Roosevelt FFA. All right, second call for Class 8 medium wool. Second call, Class 8 medium wool. All right, it's going to be your first call for Class 9 medium wool. First call for Class 9 medium wool.
Another really good class of medium wools. And for me, the two that land in first and second, they sort to the top pretty quick for me. I think both of these are real solid sheep, do a lot of good things. And I guess what separates them is just, to me, they're both attractive from the side. I think they both have some advantages when we talk about profile and balance. But to me, the biggest deciding factor is when you get on the top side of their skeleton, the one that wins just has so much more shape. He handles so good. And he's better in his finish than the one in second. But a really good pair. You know, I just think maybe a little bit more power on the top side in the one that wins. The sheep that's in second, I love how shallow he is through the floor of his chest, how extended he is. Consequently, I think he's a little bit narrower made than the sheep that wins. You know, maybe spread him out in his chest floor a little bit, and then thicken him up when you get in behind. But a really high quality sheep that I like the front third of his skeleton when we view it from the side. The sheep that comes in third, this is another sheep that I think balances up okay. He's tall fronted. I wish he was a little bit longer bodied maybe. You know, as tall as he is, if he was a little bit longer, I think it would help his look from the side. But he's a thick sheep that handles good down his top, and he has plenty of power from behind. Just maybe not as attractive as the ones that precede him. The sheep that comes in fourth is a really good handling sheep. Where this sheep kind of falls out for me is when he goes in motion. He kind of wants to drop his chest floor, and consequently he runs downhill and just doesn't hold his skeleton together on the move near as good as the ones that precede him. And the sheep that comes in fifth is a nice enough sheep when he gets propped up. To me, he's a little bit too fat, and I wish he was a little bit bigger backed. But a nice class. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you.
I know. All right, second call for Class 9 medium wool. Second call, Class 9 medium wool. Your placings for Class 8. First place, Molly Harris, Idalou, FFA. Second, Katie Collins, Idalou, FFA. Third, Blaine Harrington, Idalou, FFA. Fourth, Paisley Morris, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Fifth, Kelson Roberson, Idalou, FFA. Sixth, Emily Fulbright, Lubbock County, 4-H. Seventh, Berkeley Davis, Lubbock ISD, FFA. Eighth, Tatum Harrington, Idalou, FFA. Ninth, Riley Linnenkugel, Roosevelt, FFA. 10th, Rayleigh Dutra, Shallowater, FFA. And 11th, Laney Sheets, Roosevelt, FFA. All right, in the ring at this time is our Class 9 medium wools. All right, real quick a reminder, all of our breed champion and reserve breed champions, you are required to have your picture taken today before you leave in front of the backdrop over there. So whether you do it right after the class, if you haven't done it yet and you'd like to go ahead and do it, you may do so at this time. Otherwise, you can do it at the end of the show after our overall champion and reserve breed overall reserve champion are announced. But you must have those pictures taken before you can leave today. All right, it's going to be your first call for Class 10 medium wool, our final class of the day. First call for Class 10 medium wool.
Another really good class of medium wool sheep, and I like all three of these that we have out here, and I think they're all a little bit similar and a little bit different. To me, the one I land on to win the class, to me, I think he's he offers the best combination of skeletal quality, but yet terminal merit, power, and muscle. This is the one of the three. He's cracked the widest open. He's the biggest in his chest. He's the biggest back. Then whenever you step in behind him, he just blows you away how big he is in that upper hip and drops a ton of muscle down low. And then I think when you study him from the side, and especially in motion, for a thick sheep, he props up and presents pretty well. He carries himself around the ring fairly well. To me, that's just a really good one to land on to win this heavyweight class. The prettiest one from the side is the one that comes in second. I love how tall fronted this one is. His lines are perfect. That underline behind his front leg and has that sweeping rib back to his flank. The hang up I have with this guy, when you study him from behind, you just like to blow him apart. He needs to be wider, and compared to the class winner, he's getting a little bit flatter in his muscle pattern, but a really, really pretty sheep that's super high quality, and you have to appreciate from that standpoint. The one that comes in third is another one that props up good, and to me, when I study these sheep on the three-quarter view, he's the least impressive. To me, he's probably the flattest in his side, and he's the one that's the narrowest in his upper hip, and definitely has the least amount of muscle down low. The sheep that I'm going to put in fourth, this is a thick sheep that, to me, I just like to change the way his front end is assembled. I'd like to fix his shoulder blade, shallow his chest, and then whenever he gets around the ring, I wish he moved a little freer and easier, especially out of his front end. But when he's propped up, a nice thick sheep that you have to appreciate. And then the one that grounds out the top five is another wide-made sheep. Maybe doesn't balance up as well from the side as the other ones, but a really nice heavyweight class. Thank you.
All right, your places for Class 9. First place, Hudson Roberson, Idalou, FFA. Second, Addison Irwin, Lubbock Cooper Liberty. Third, Keegan Flowers, Friendship, FFA. Fourth, Molly Harris, Idalou, FFA. Fifth, Stetson Felipe, Lubbock County 4-H. Sixth, Blaine Harrington, Idalou, FFA. Seventh, Dylan Shedd, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Eighth, Keegan Flowers, Friendship, FFA. Ninth, Lola Nichols, Lubbock ISD, FFA. 10th, Diana Sarmiento, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. And 11th, Heaven Chacon, Shallowater, FFA. All right, second call for Class 10, our final class of the day. If you haven't shown yet and you're supposed to, you probably need to get your lamb and get to the ring at this time. Class 10, medium wool, second call. All right, as we're working this last class, I'd like to introduce introduce our judge to some of you that maybe weren't here this morning when we first started. Today we have Mr. Jason Byrd, originally from Fort Sumner, Mexico, currently living in Lavernia, Texas, with his wife Sarah and daughter Bree. Went to Clarendon Junior College and Texas Tech University, judged livestock and did meat judging. Currently works for Labatt Food Services in San Antonio. Judges a lot of jackpots and county shows here in Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. If you would, one more time, let's put our hands together for Mr. Jason Byrd. Show him our appreciation for him being here today. Thank you for being here, Jason. Also want to recognize Terry County Tractor, sponsoring our live feed today. This is being taken care of by KCBD. Appreciate that crew being out here today, taking good care of us, putting it out there online for everybody that can't be here. Also want to remind everybody, all of our exhibitors, all the breed champion, reserve breed champions, you must have your picture taken today in front of the backdrop before you can leave. We appreciate Devin Sisk Photography being out here today, taking care of us on all of our pictures like they do every year. Be sure and get those pictures taken. Even if you're not a breed champion, I think they'll take your picture if you walk over there. You look nice enough, maybe. I don't know. Six, seven, eight, nine. All right, we want to start getting those first and second place medium wolves from classes 6, 7, 8, 9 back to the ring at this time. First call for those first and second place medium wolves from classes 6, 7, 8, and 9. Start making your way back to the ring at this time.
Big square sheep. I love it for a big sheep. He's not fat at all, which I appreciate. The hang up I have with him is when he goes in motion, he tends to want to drop his chest and kind of throws his balance off. You just want to go right back there. You're going to be second and you're going to be first. A nice class of heavyweights to round out our medium wool show, and to me, the logical place, the logical one to land on is this young lady sheep that's going to start off the class. To me, he's real solid, doesn't have a whole lot of holes. He's attractive from the side, balances up very good. Then when you get your hands on him, he just handles like crazy. I mean, he's big and square and expressive down his top. You get in behind him, he's pulled apart big at his pins and just incredibly thick through the center and lower parts of his leg. If I was going to change this one up, it would be structurally off of his rear legs. I think he wants to get a little bit tight. He might have a tick too much set to his hock, which makes him kind of want to get up under himself a little bit. But I think just a really good, high-quality one to land on to lead off the class. The sheep that lands in second, I like his outline. He's a big outline, tall-fronted sheep that's good up through the floor of his chest. The hang-up with him I have is he just doesn't handle good enough. I wish he was bigger backed. You get in behind him, and he's not as powerful and expressive as the one that leads off. And for a bigger sheep, maybe he could be a little bit heavier in his bone work as well. The one that comes in third, I love the way the sheep handles. He's pulled apart, he's wide, he's heavy boned. The hang up with him I have is when he goes in motion. He just doesn't hold his skeleton together like it should. He tends to want to drop his front end, and it just kind of throws off his whole look as he goes around the ring. But a thick sheep that you have to appreciate from that standpoint. And the ones that kind of, fourth and fifth are very similar in my mind. You know, they're thick sheep that handle good, just don't balance up as well as the ones that precede them in class. But a nice set. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
All right, your placings for Class 10. First place, Ellis Irwin, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Second, Hudson Roberson, Idalou, FFA. Third, Caselin Etheridge, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Fourth, Sydney Rice, Lubbock Cooper, Liberty. Fifth, Kinley Boggs, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Sixth, Amaya Reed, Friendship, FFA. Seventh, Riley Linnenkugel, Roosevelt, FFA. Eighth, Kaylin Starcher, Lubbock Cooper, FFA. Ninth, Natalie Jones, Lubbock Coronado, FFA. 10th, Alondra Palafox, Lubbock ISD, FFA. And 11th, Tatum Harrington, Idalou, FFA. All right, we're going to get those first and second place medium bulls from classes 6 through 10 lined up and ready for our champion medium bull drive. We'll be having here in just a few minutes.
not paying attention.
Is there a reason why you don't take off the holiday? Do you have the holiday?
All right, these are all of your first and second place medium wolves from classes 6 through 10. Recognizing each of those classes, Class 6, first place, Molly Harris. Second place, Evelyn McCormick. First place from Class 7, Addison Irwin. Second place, Kelson Roberson. First place from Class 8, Molly Harris. Second place, Katie Collins. First place in Class 9, Hudson Roberson. Second place, Addison Irwin. First place from Class 10, Ellis Irwin. And second place, Hudson Roberson. If you would, let's put our hands together for these exhibitors as they're out there showing for our champion medium wool. All right, we're going to go ahead and give our first call for all of our breed champion and reserve breed champions. Start making your way back to the ring, getting ready for our overall champion drive. First call for our breed and reserve breed champions. Start making your way to the ring at this time.
Before we get into our champion and reserve selection, let's put our hands together for all these exhibitors that competed out here in a very, very competitive medium wool division. You know, one thing, when you come up to Lubbock and the Panhandle, you know you're going to close to some of the greatest people in the world, but you also expect to see some really good livestock. You know, and you guys haven't disappointed at all today. You know, the classes from top to bottom have all, you know, had a lot of quality in them. They've all been very, very deep, and it's been a lot of fun. I'll briefly discuss the sheep again. We had a really good lightweight class, very, very competitive. We landed on the young lady's sheep there standing in the front. That was just really, really high quality from the side. We talked about how we loved his structure and how loose he was off both ends of his skeleton. And it's like when he gets in the ring, he could just move for days. Really, really good sheep. We talked if we were going to change him, maybe make him more powerful on the top side of his skeleton, especially behind his shoulders. Maybe elevate his chest a little bit, but a really nice sheep. And then the blue sheep that won Class 2, this is another one that's got all the bells and whistles. Very, very cool. Love his handle. You get him out here in motion, maybe one you might want to pick on a little bit that wants to get a little bit low-fronted at times, but a really, really high-quality sheep that won that class. We talked about the one that came out of Class 3, just built really good, handles really good, very, very high cutability kind of sheep, lots and lots of quality. Love the three-dimensional view on him. He's one that I like a great deal. Then the one that came out of the fourth class, I believe, we talked about he was kind of a combination sheep, one that had lots of power. He was cracked open really wide, but yet maintained his structural quality when he goes around the ring, and then props up good enough from the side. I think I like that sheep a lot too. And then we talked about the one that came out of the last class, just being massive and wild in his handle, about, just the crazy muscle expression down his top and from behind, and I think that still holds true out here. He blows everything away in terms of pure muscle shape. We talked if we were going to change him, maybe change him in the way he goes structurally off of his back legs. Really, really good set of medium wools. I'm going to go through them one more time and congratulate the winners. Let's give them all one more round of applause. Thank you.
All right, your champion medium wool goes to Molly Harris, Idalou FFA. And reserve medium wool goes to Hudson Roberson. Idalou FFA. All right, let's get all those breed and reserve breed champions to the ring at this time for our overall champion drive. We need all of our breed champion or reserve breed champions to the ring at this time for our overall champion drive. Also, if anybody's interested in selling their animal to the floor, it's $1.75 a pound. You need to come up here and fill out a form that we have for you, and we'll get you situated, get that lamb taken care of if you're going to sell that lamb to the floor. All right, we're going to bring in all of our breed champions first, and then we'll bring in our reserve breed champions right after that. So your breed champion fine wool, Haley Felipe, Lubbock County 4-H. Champion fine wool, Abigail Fallis, Lubbock County 4-H. Champion South Down, Molly Harris, Idalou FFA. Champion Dorper, Alexa Gatus, Idalou FFA. Champion Medium Wool, Molly Harris, Idalou FFA. All right, bringing in our reserve breed champions. Reserve fine wool, Stetson Felipe, Lubbock County 4-H. Reserve fine wool cross, Evelyn McCormick, Lubbock Cooper FFA. Reserve South Down, Ellis Irwin, Lubbock Cooper FFA. Reserve Dorper, Cadence Maldonado, Lubbock Cooper FFA. And reserve medium wool, Hudson Roberson, Idalou FFA. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your breed champion and reserve breed champion lambs. If you would, let's put our hands together for these exhibitors.
Before we get into it, I'd like to just thank you guys for the opportunity to be here. I appreciate the invitation. You know, anytime you get asked to come and evaluate livestock and give your opinion and work with these kids, it's an extreme honor. So thank you guys for that. It gave me the opportunity to make another trip to Lubbock, which I always enjoy. We got to meet up with my daughter last night and eat dinner. She's a sophomore in college here. So I thank you for that opportunity. You know, we livestock whenever my daughter was in school, you know, from third grade all the way on. And, you know, we had a blast doing it. And now that we're done, a couple years out of it, you know, you think back and, you know, some of our fondest times as a family were at stock shows. You know, and the things that my wife and I remember the most, yeah, we remember the wins, we remember the losses, we remember some of the sheep, but it's the times with family and friends. You know, and now that we're done, you reflect and you look back, you know, that's what maybe we didn't appreciate enough at the time when we were going through it, you know, and you don't realize it until you're done. You know, you don't see the people that you're used to seeing every single weekend. You know, it's like, man, we haven't seen so-and-so in a long time. Well, duh, it's because we haven't been to a stock show. So, you know, I just hope, you know, win, lose, or draw, however you did today, you know, just appreciate the opportunity, appreciate your time in the ring, and appreciate your time with family and friends because, you know, that's what this program's all about. It's about teaching kids to work hard, you know, and then valuing family and relationships. So just that's something that you know, I wish maybe we would have spent more time just appreciating. But anyway, enough about that. Let's get into the sheep. A really, really good show. we started out with our fine wools, and I really like the one that won. That's kind of a modern type sheep that's square off both ends of his skeleton, really good in his rib cage, and that was the one feature that kind of set him apart from the other one. The ones that's in second, I love the way he handles, but just more traditional fine wool in his look from the side, maybe a little bit flatter in his rib cage, and not quite as up through and attractive up through his front end. We got into the crosses, and we talked about them being probably the most diverse breed that's going right now with the most variation. And you can see it in these two sheep. One's tall and long, and the other one's kind of shorter and a little bit thicker. We used the prettier one and followed it up with the one that's super thick, but just two nice sheep there that came out of our cross division. We got into our South Downs, and we talked about how the quality just got turned up really high. I like both of these two sheep. Looking at the sheep out here, if I had to pick two for my daughter, if we were still showing to go down the road and show and haul to a major, there's a good chance that I would take those two South Downs. I think they're very good, very high quality, have a lot of good things to them, and it'll be exciting to see how they do down the road. We talked about, the one that won was just super opened up in his skeleton. We love his rib cage. We love the shape down his top and the power from behind. And we talked about the one that was in second. Just you love the design, super cool, really made really good. Just giving up a little bit of power maybe in terms of the one that won. We got into our Dorpers. We talked about the one that won being a long-bodied, pretty sheep that's got some quality, and then the one that was second, we talked about him being really wide-skeletoned, very thick. We got into our medium wools, and that was a very good division, very deep, lots of quality there. And the one that we settled on is the young lady sheep here, one that we really appreciate in terms of style, balance, and quality, but yet offers a ton of terminal merit. The one in the reserve one we talked about, he was a good combination of just skeletal mass and power, but yet still putting it together in a very pretty look. And I think all the sheep, they represent their breeds well. I'm proud of them all. I'm going to go congratulate your winners. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, your overall champion goes to Molly Harris with that medium wool. Idalou FFA bringing in that reserve, Hudson Roberson, Idalou FFA. And he will be your overall reserve grand champion, Hudson Roberson, Idalou FFA. All right, reminder, exhibitors, if you haven't already, please make sure you get your picture taken before you leave the barn today. That concludes today's show. We appreciate everybody being out here. We'll be out here first thing early in the morning again for our Barra show. Hope to see y'all there. Everybody have a great Friday afternoon. Be safe out there. Everybody have a great one. God bless.